Drama Podcast with Stephen Bradford, presented by dailydrama.com. We have an incredible guest today, a face that you no doubt recognize from so much work in television and film. But right now, he's a new, dare I say, villain on General Hospital. He plays Sidwell. We have Carlo Rota. Hey, dude.
How's it going? Yes, I am a villain. Because you know why I'm a villain?
Why is that?
It's baldism. That's what it is.
Baldism?
That's what it is. If you're bald, you have facial hair and an accent, you're immediately a villain.
So wait a second. Has that ever, like, because, you know, I was a quirky guy in the early 2000s, so I was a tech guy. That was just what it was.
Yeah.
Now, do bald people, like, what is, chart the bald culture, like the bald casting culture?
One thing's for sure. If there's one man that can chart the bald culture, it's me. I don't know if I can actually chart it. All I can tell you is my experience of it and other people's viewpoint of it. But yeah, it's like one of those things. You look at the villains. Look at the villains that are cast. So many of them have, for some reason or other, lost their hair. Is it because they're so evil? Is it the evil that makes
just kills the kills the follicles?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this could be a breakthrough for men who are follicularly challenged.
That's right.
That perhaps a little less evil, and you won't lose your hair.
Yeah, so I'm immediately trying to think of the bald guys who are heroes, and I thought of two: The Rock,
yes,
and Jason Statham, the transporter.
Yeah. But they're not. They shave their heads. They actually have hair.
They're just trying to act like they're bald.
They're just trying to.
No, they don't, Brad. He's joking.
Have you played Daddy Warbucks yet? I guess that's the next question.
I haven't played Daddy Warbucks yet. It came close, actually. You know, I have this rather suspicious and long history of being Canadian.
Yeah.
Of course, I really sound it. I know I sound it. But while I was in Canada, there was talk of staging Annie.
Yeah.
And it was like the talk. It went to a certain place and then just fizzled. But yes, almost played him.
I know we're getting off on such tangents here, but if you were to play Daddy Warbucks, would you? How's your American accent?
Oh, I mean, I work in my American accent all the time, but so it's, you know, it'd be fine. I presume. Sure. I mean, I think it's fine. Although I often wonder when I'm working in my American accent why people are always laughing at me. I'm not quite sure why that is.
Well, Carlo and I started working together, and it's been so much fun. I mean, this guy's awesome. I mean,
it's been great.
A guy that everybody does recognize. I knew him immediately. His voice is incredible. And I'm like, this dude is just something. There's something special that you're bringing to the show, man. Seriously, appreciate it.
Put it in my pocket. I'm telling you, I'm having the best time. This was a totally random thing. This was something that came up. You know, I auditioned for this for a role last October.
Wow.
And that didn't work out. And then out of the blue, a couple of months ago, my manager tells me, I got an offer for you for General Hospital. I'm like, oh, that took a long time, and it's not the same part. And I had never done any daytime, so I had to be talked through it. The various energies, the pace, the budget. And you know, I got, but the welcoming that I have received from various people, you know, Mark and Lisa in casting, Frank, of course, who's the big cheese, and you lovely people, Emma and Jonathan, and of course you, has been. I just feel I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I think this is one of those things where something hasn't happened in your career, and you just like discount it, and then you step into it, and you realize, oh no, actually, I think I'm quite well built for it, because I enjoy the pace. I really feel like it's the closest TV gets to theater, right?
Absolutely.
And the pace is breakneck. I think that unless you've experienced it, and obviously you guys are veterans, the pace is breakneck, but you're diving in. And it's like someone says to you, okay, do a painting. Here's some brushes. Here's some paint. Now do a painting. You've got 10 seconds. And whatever you do, that's it. Right? Whatever
Totally.
you do
Right.
on the canvas, that's it. Don't, so you do it and you go like, oh, I want to change this. Nope, moving on. Next one.
Well, and
Yep, moving on.
and
right?
once you kind of realize that, as long as since you bring great tools to the table and you trust your scene partners, no matter what you come up with, it's gonna be something, and it's gonna be okay, and it's gonna be okay.
Right.
Right.
And there's a risk factor to it, which I think really is up my alley. I love a nice risk. I think that I don't know whether anyone's done a psychological profile about this, but I think as actors, we are actually gamblers at heart.
Yeah.
We gamble our lives on this career that we've decided on, right?
True.
It's like going into a really stacked casino where people go, don't go in there. You'll never win any money. You're going to lose everything. You go, no, I'm going in. I'm an actor. I'm going in. And there's something about that risk that I really like. You start the scene and you're like going, I don't freaking well know my lines, but I will somehow persevere.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're gambling all your acting on one take.
It's kind of like team skydiving a little bit.
That's all you got.
Yeah.
You've probably done it before.
You know what? There's a skydiving analogy to be made for sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. How long did it take you to kind of go, okay, this is, once it's set in, like, this is how it is. Like
the first day is a blur. I don't even remember it. I don't actually remember what I did. And I got home and my wife was like, oh, so what was it like? I'm like, I do not know, darling.
Had she run stuff with you? Because she's an actress as well, right?
She is an actress,
yeah.
and she was a little busy to run some stuff with me, but she ran it a little bit. I write down. Stephen's already noticed this. He's asked me about it a couple of times. I have these little cue cards, and I just write my lines on them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little problematic because I don't write anybody else's lines, and as a result, it's I sometimes will just step on other people's lines or whatever. But anyway,
sometimes all of a sudden he's just doing a monologue, and we're like, "Hey, dude, we have lines here too."
So I write down on these cue cards, and I find that by putting the words, the inimitable General Hospital words in my writing, I can somehow absorb them. But there've been days when we go up to set after blocking in the morning or in the afternoon, whatever, and you go up to set and you run through it once before your take, and I'm like, honestly, I do not know what I'm saying. So I have to pull out. I have them either stashed in a spot, not visible, hopefully,
right.
And I have to pull them out and go, right. I start with that. But there's, as I said before, there's something thrilling about it.
Yeah.
You know those dreams that you have where you go to school without your trousers on?
Right. Or on stage, and like we all have, as actors, have anxiety dreams when you're on stage and you don't know the line.
You've been cast in a role and you're like, okay, on you go, and you're like, I don't know the lines. No, go on. Right. Yeah. So I have to say, all in all, I'm having a blast. And to answer the actual question you asked, like I said, first day was a blur. Second and third day, I sort of understood a bit more the energy of it. The last few days have been fantastic. I've really had a great time. It is actually an exhilarating experience.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, before we get into, we can't really talk about story because I don't know exactly what's aired right now, so we don't want to spoil anything at all.
Right.
But it's going to be awesome because we've been shooting some really cool stuff. Just give us a little bit. We were talking a little bit on set, just kind of your background and how all this acting thing came.
I read that you were a little late to the party. That you.
I was super late to the party. Yeah. I'm when I first started taking lessons and coaching in Toronto, in Canada, I was prior to that, I had actually a pretty solid career in the restaurant business. We owned 3 or 4 different restaurants in Toronto, and I'd been in the restaurant business for a while. I was in my early 30s, and something happened one day. It was maybe because I was working primarily with my family, and as much as I love them, working in the restaurant business is already chaos. And then when you work with family, it's like chaos squared. And one day I woke up and went, I can't do this anymore. I don't think I can do this anymore. And it was one of those things where like, okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are your skills?
Right.
What are your special skills? There weren't any, right?
Right.
I didn't think I was a very good businessman. I didn't think I was very, one thing that people would tell me that I had some skill in was empathy, being empathetic, right?
Wow.
Now, how do you turn that into
a career?
anything?
How do you monetize empathy?
And out of the blue, I took this guy from LA, Michael Shirtliff. He used to be in casting in Los Angeles, and he came up to Toronto to teach a class. It was a really big class, 60 people in the class. I signed up for it, got in, and it was my first time doing any kind of acting whatsoever. And I had to perform a scene with a scene partner in front of 58 people. And it was like, as we say in Italian, un colpo di fulmine, a lightning bolt. Oh. It was, I did it, and I felt this intense sense of joy and accomplishment from it. Now, the downside of that, of course, is that I've been chasing that high for the last
30 years.
Ain't that the case? Yeah.
I've been chasing that high for the last 30 years, right? Should anyone listening have done any kind of, not me, of course, I don't do any nefarious products, but if anyone listening has done something like that, they know that you do it and then you chase it for the rest of your life. So don't do it. However, in this case,
right,
I did it.
It's only moderately unhealthy, the acting.
Yeah. I thought this is for me. And, I went to speak to my dad, and I'm like, hey, Dad. It's like, yes, I think I'm going to become an actor. It's like the most clichéic thing you can say at the age of whatever I was, 31, 32. I think the world needs another actor. So I'm going to leave the restaurant business and do that. And my dad's like, yeah, sure. So you have a job? I'm like, not really, Daddy. I don't know if it works that way. Oh, right. Oh, so you, Robert De Niro, actors, huh? Yeah, okay. And I'm like, well, so anyway, the point is, I did that. I dived in, and, I think so much of this business is being in the right place at the right time. A lot of it is luck.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was at an age where I was like a new face in a small talent pool in Canada, and I started working. I miraculously started working.
Toronto's a fantastic town for theater and TV and
Toronto is an amazing town for all of those things. Yeah. But the thing about the difference between it used to be with actors. I know with actors here in the States, people would often say, well, what do you want to do? You want to do theater? Do you want to do TV? Do you want to do film? You ask that of a Canadian actor, the answer is yes.
Yes,
right. I'll do because even though it's a fantastic place,
right,
it's not a huge amount of work. Right. So you just do everything. You do some theater, you do some TV, you do some film. Yeah. I also used to have a show, a gastronomical show. It was a food show.
Oh, wow.
Where I would tour Canada. And it was like the Murder, She Wrote of food. Wherever I went, food happened.
Amazing.
And before I knew it, I was working.
Yeah.
It was like a fantastic way of getting into the business. But like I said, very lucky. There's a bit of skill, but there's also a lot of luck.
So what brought you to? Was it a job that brought you to LA? Because are you in LA full time now? So
what happened was, in those days, it doesn't so much exist anymore, because I think that things have shifted. But in those days, as a Canadian actor, your thoughts were always south of the border. Like where?
Sure.
because there's a glass ceiling there, and
Right.
you know that coming south, you'll possibly strike on something that's going to be much bigger than the thing you'd be able to do in Canada. So
For sure.
I always had my eye on that. I applied for papers.
The old O1 or
The
whatever.
old O1, the multiple entry, multiple
The
job
exceptional,
O1.
the exceptional something visa, the exceptional ability
Yeah,
visa.
exception-
I
yeah.
did. I did
Exceptional ability.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
I dated
really.
a Canadian actress for a bit, and that was like her just the something that she was always thinking about, and so yeah,
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 exceptional ability. It's like one of those things where when you arrive at the border, the guy will look at you and go like, "How'd you get your O1, sir?"
right.
I'm like, I have exceptional ability. And he'd look at you like, "Are you taking the piss or what?" He look at you like, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, I got my O1 and it came out of the blue. I was actually in Buenos Aires
Oh
at the
wow, so
time.
you actually applied for it and got it. It wasn't a job that did it.
No, I applied for it. I got it. Again, I'm not sure how it works now, but you could apply via a lawyer. You had to be employed by somebody, but not a production. So it could be like a company employing you. Or anyway, back then, I think it's changed since then. I don't want anyone to think that the process is really easy. It took a while, and I'd actually forgotten about it. I was in Buenos Aires, and I get this email, and it was like, "Oh, your visa's come through." Like, what? So I got on a plane, went back to Toronto, gathered up a few belongings and my dog, and I put them in my Volvo, my aging Volvo, and I drove south and drove down to LA and
Wow.
stayed on a friend's couch for a little while. But what had happened was I had worked on a lot of American productions in Toronto. And one of the productions I'd worked on was a production called Nikita.
Yes,
And
yeah.
yeah, so it was a thing that went on. I was on that show for like 5 years, and
Wow.
one of the showrunner, he basically, I got to LA and I phoned a lot of these people I'd worked with in Canada. I just phoned them up.
Right.
I didn't have an agent. I just phoned them up, right? And some people were like, "Okay, so great, you're in Los Angeles, whatever," right? But Joel was like, Joel Cerno, he was like, "Oh, you're in LA," and I'm like, "Yeah." I go, "Oh, come up and see us," because he was shooting 24 at the time. He goes, "Come up and see us. Come to Chatsworth and see us." I'm like, "Okay." So I went to Chatsworth. I had a little meeting with him. Went back down to where I was staying with my friend on his couch, and my friend was like, "So what happened?" I said, "Oh, I spoke to Joel, and he said like he'll write me into the show." And my friend, who was an actor as well, he's like, "Yeah, you're in LA, buddy. That doesn't happen."
Right.
Everyone will say that. It doesn't happen. And just as he's saying that, the phone rings, and it's Joel, and he's like, "Great. So, do you have an agent? Because
we're ready to go.
We're gonna make an offer." And I'm like, "Oh no, James, it's just happened."
Wow.
So again, luck. It's a lot of luck.
Well,
right?
you had made those relationships, and you followed up on them, and you like.
Well, also, I didn't know at the time. People would say to me, "What, you were just phoning up producers and telling them you're in LA?" I went, "Well, yeah. Like, what are they going to do? Put you in producer prison or something for doing that? I mean, is that like a no-no?" And they're like, "Well, normally it goes through like somebody." I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I didn't have somebody, so I phoned."
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And some people, I phoned 4 or 5 different people.
Come on, let's see that beautiful. You just took the hat off.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah,
So
buddy. There you go.
It's so good.
Now we're talking.
You know what's funny?
You save it till the end, huh?
So talking about 24, I loved that show, and I loved your character, and so when I saw you on TV, I was like, God, that looks like the guy that played Morris, but no way, he looks younger than when he played Morris. That can't be the same guy. So whatever you're doing, well done.
It's all the recreational, extracurricular stuff I do.
Yeah,
Morris. I'm recording now. I've got a beautiful little border terrier that I named Morris.
Fantastic.
because of that character. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. No, that
Anyway, so that was basically
Yeah.
my entry to Los Angeles, and then I stayed in Los Angeles, and of course, that was a rose. Morris, come here. That was a rose-colored glasses entry into Los Angeles,
for sure.
and then I sort of became like a working actor. The other thing that would happen is that when you are Canadian, you come down to LA, suddenly you're very eligible for work in Canada.
Oh, of
I'm
course.
sure you are.
Right? Suddenly it's like, oh, you're in LA? Okay, then we need to hire you back here.
Of course.
So, I just became like one of those guys that works every so often. And
awesome.
I'm so it's been fantastic. I've been able to work on a whole bunch of different things. My resume is in, like, there's a lot of like one episode, 2 episodes,
Sure.
I've worked on so many different things. It's been such a blessing. I thoroughly, like, both my wife and I, we're always like, we never, maybe, I don't know what it is. We have that in our character. We've never become jaded about work,
Yeah.
Some people do get jaded. They're like,
You still get excited about it. You're still in, and still
yeah,
curious.
absolutely.
It sounds, I mean, just the way you talk about working on our show now, like just the energy that you get from a new experience. I mean, that's beautiful.
It's fantastic.
And Carlo and I were on set. I can't say which one, but he was like, I can see why people do this. Because he can get home and see his wife and kids.
That's the other thing too. That is the other thing. Yes,
you're not working through the night. You're not going on location.
100%. And also, since we've come down to Los Angeles, very often, if I do get a job, I also get a plane ticket.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
now,
awesome,
all of that
man.
stuff is fine until you have kids.
Of course.
Sure. Yeah.
But like working on General Hospital, and I did an episode of The Rookie while I was shooting General Hospital, and on both occasions, both shows, I was wrapped, came home for dinner. That's that's a dream come true,
isn't it? It surely is. Yeah. Well, and it's been it's been so wonderful in the last, I don't know, Steve, what would you say, 5-6 years? The amount of people that have kind of careers that you have that are stepping in, like, we had, I don't know if you know Greg Harrison, Gregory Harrison. He just wrapped up a couple-year arc on the show, and it's so fun to talk to actors that have had so many different experiences, and then having a new experience with us. And that's so rare, like to have someone that has the breadth of a career, the depth of a career that you have, and then we get to experience something new with you, which is kind of cool,
Well, and I also have to say this, because I've also started watching the show, and I had never watched it before. My mother-in-law is in town. She's visiting from Toronto. She's a huge fan of the show.
Oh, wow.
Huge.
Wow.
She explains everyone's storyline to me.
Get her out here, man. Get her out
useful.
here.
She's my wife and her have gone to have their nails done.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
But she's a huge fan of the show. She explains all the storylines. She tells me who's having an affair with who, whose children is that person's child. And I watch the show with her because she watches it religiously.
Right.
And in watching the show, I've realized a couple of things. First of all, there's a lot going on.
Yes.
It's like a lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I've also realized this. You guys are phenomenal at your jobs. I think that it takes doing it to understand the complexity of giving those performances in the time frame that you have, with the kind of preparation that you have. I look at some of those scenes and I'm like, that is phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
That's nice to hear.
That. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I'm curious, you talked about your note card situation, and when you're doing, when your little, your sides packet is 6 pages long for the day, that's a little bit easier to do your cards, but when you have maybe 30 pages on our scene, that's a lot of cards.
There was one day when we shot a bunch of episodes, and I counted 49 pages.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. Like, that's the other thing that you have to somehow get used to. You do TV, you do like film. Oh my God, film. If you do like 10 pages, you're like, wow, we did 10 pages. We did 12 pages today.
Right.
I look at the call sheets, General Hospital call sheets. trying to do 122 pages. You know, I'm looking at that. I'm like, I look at it like I don't quite believe it.
Yeah, no.
I start to lose control of my bladder.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, man.
As one does, of course.
Yes, yes, yeah.
But so 49 pages, it's still the same thing. I just write them all out,
Wow.
And then I have a stack of them. That day that we did 3 episodes, I had a stack this big. And, you know, because you're like getting them in and out of your pocket stuff, they all get all confused. And I'd be like, just hold on.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens with Sidwell, and like the team of people that you're working with is from what I've read about, like working with Jonathan and Steve
and Jonathan, fantastic. Steve, brilliant.
And
Fanula,
like it's awesome. Yeah.
Fanula is like intensely insane and fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course Emma.
Yeah.
So cool, man. So cool.
Well, shamelessly, I hope I get to work with you at some point.
I also hope.
So, but welcome to the show. I hope the fun continues. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's so nice to be welcomed.
Yes. Carlo, you're awesome, man. We appreciate you and look forward to working with you more. So
awesome.